I kicked out my male from the wedding because her perfume was bothering me. Story. I just got married to the love of my life. I've usually gotten on pretty well with my new in-laws. Usually my mother-in-law doesn't wear perfume, or at least not any that I've been able to notice. My wife had her mother be her matron of honor, so she was standing with us up front. It was a small area, and with her right next to my wife, I was able to smell her perfume. Shortly after the ceremony started, I started to get watery eyes and sniffles. Our ceremony was supposed to only last 20 minutes max, so I thought I would just push through unless it got worse. It didn't get worse until after the ceremony, when new mother-in-law hugged me. Itchy eyes, itchy throat, and headache got added to the mix. My wife asked if I was all right, and I told her I think her mother's perfume was getting to me. We had someone go get some allergy medication. I took one, but it didn't do a whole lot, and I started to feel out of it. Get to the reception, and we started to do our photos, and I couldn't do group photos with my mother-in-law in them. I told my wife we needed to figure something out because my symptoms weren't letting up, and I didn't want to be out of it from taking more meds for our reception or have to leave our own reception. My wife asked her mom to keep some distance between us to try and make it easier for me. It didn't really. That perfume followed her like a damn cloud. Then my wife asked her mom to try and wash wherever she dabbed her perfume, but mother-in-law said she hadn't dabbed it on. She spritzed herself so it was on her dress too. At that point, they said they were out of ideas and there wasn't anything we could do. I said there was one more thing and suggested that maybe mother-in-law leave to change her dress and then come back, or even just go to a nearby thrift store or something and get any kind of clothes. I'd even pay for them. I asked my mother-in-law to either please to do that or to leave, and we'd visit later with cake because it was getting to the point that I would have to leave. My wife and mother-in-law objected to this because my wife wanted her mom there the whole time. I understand the day was big for my wife, and she wanted her mother there, and I wanted her there too, but I wasn't able to enjoy my own wedding. I wound up sitting outside with some of my family and groomsmen. I started to feel better, and when I did, my wife came out and asked if I'd be going back inside then. I told her no, so long as her mom was still there and hadn't changed. The night ended with my wife spending our wedding night at her parents' house. Am I the a-hole for asking my mother-in-law to leave? Edited to add, yes, my wife is aware of this. I had a similar reaction to a perfume she bought before. This was only the third time I've had a reaction that bad to perfumes. Response 1. My wife and mother-in-law objected to this because my wife wanted her mom there the whole time. But your wife didn't want her new husband there? Oof. Reply 1. Definitely not the a-hole. Bad situation, but you were being reasonable. Mother-in-law should have gone and taken a shower and returned with clean clothes. Wife is being unreasonable. I hope you didn't sign the wedding papers yet. Reply 2. I actually had an allergic reaction to the flowers in my wife's bouquet. But since the wedding was outside, it didn't hit me until days later when we were driving away from the hotel with the bouquet in the car. There wasn't a viable option for sealing it up, so we ended up tossing out the bouquet. Mother-in-law sent over a vase of flowers a few months ago with the same flowers. I didn't even realize it was the same flowers, but within a minute of me being in the same room, I was wrecked. Reply 3. In college, every time I would go over to my friend's apartment, I would get an itchy throat and stinging eyes. Couldn't figure out what it was for the longest time. I just resigned myself to the mystery of it. Then I go over one day and feel great, and I mention it. The night before, she'd banished one of her many plants to the porch. This was a plant she had multiples of, but that one had a fungus affecting it. I was allergic to that specific fungus that only grew on that specific kind of jungle plant. Reply 4. I read a story, I believe on Reddit, about a woman who had a life-threatening allergic reaction to some of the flowers in her bouquet and had to be taken to the ER. Found the video about it. Reply 5. Had a similar experience with the flowers from my dad's funeral. Couldn't for the life of me figure out why I felt so horrid. I've gone my whole life with no issues, so I thought nothing of it. It wasn't until someone sent my mom a second Lily arrangement that I put two and two together. Made my mom feel horrible. Couldn't convince her it wasn't her fault for beans. 103837/10, don't recommend. Response 2. NTA. I can't believe your mother-in-law and your new wife would be you struggling to breathe, and simply be at your wedding is wildly messed up opportunity to just buy a new outfit or come back later. Reply 1. I have this same extreme extensity to perfume as well, and it's amazing how many people, including my now ex-husband, will just roll their eyes like I am exaggerating or making it up or being a drama queen. This sensitively is awful, and if I can't get it under control, it triggers a really bad migraine. My son plays high school soccer, and one of the boys drenches himself with cologne after games. After one game, one of the moms said, "Well, it's better than their body odor." I disagreed vehemently. I'd rather smell their body odors than cologne or perfumes. Reply 2. I started wearing cologne shortly before meeting my wife. I had 3 large bottles of different scents. Then I met her, and she's allergic to most, if not all, perfumes and colognes. So those bottles sit unused at my parents' place because I care more about her comfort than smelling like sandalwood or whatever. Edit. Thanks for the award. Reply 3. I'm with you. Perfume allergies are terrible. If someone comes into my office wearing the wrong perfume, I'll feel sick for hours until the room airs out a bit. And my allergies are pretty mild compared with OP's and yours. Reply 4. I get migraines if I'm around too much perfume/cologne. I cannot imagine being allergic on top of that. Reply 5. I'm with you. And why are people allowed to put on heavy perfume when they go to a doctor's office? I have had to wait outside many times for this. People. Response 3. NTA, I understand your wife wanting her mother to be present at the wedding, but it's your wedding too. Not only that, but the perfume was giving you an allergic reaction. Watery eyes, itchy throat, headache sound bad enough, but prolonged exposure to an allergen can make those even worse. I know someone whose throat closes up and can't breathe when they're too close to certain perfume and scents. You tried to compromise and even offered to pay for new clothes for your mother-in-law to change into so that she could enjoy the reception. None of their ideas worked, so what were you supposed to do? Suffer through it and potentially get even sicker or miss out on your own wedding reception, which it sounds like you did since you had to sit outside, away from your own wife on your wedding day. Response 4. NTA. Your wife and her mother refused to make reasonable accommodation for your allergy. This does not bode well for your married life. Reply 1. Just to add to this, make reasonable accommodation for your allergy that made it essential that you sit outside to do some silly thing. Oh yeah, breathe. Reply 2. What are you talking about? Breathing isn't that important. He should just hold his breath like a real man. Reply 3. It was definitely an accident, but the response wasn't great. The groom didn't get to enjoy his wedding reception, and the bride and mother-in-law didn't care. Response 5. NTA. You tried to compromise in every polite way possible, even offered to buy her a new dress not covered in the perfume. You didn't just straight tell her to leave as soon as it got to you. While I do understand your wife's point of view in wanting her mother there, she was extremely inconsiderate of you, her now husband. I do not think you did anything wrong here. Response 6. This was awful. Everyone should have stepped up. Mother-in-law asking a niece or dear friend to dash out and pick up something for her. SIL apologizing profusely for his dripping nose while popping allergy meds. And wife/daughter loving everyone and telling them this is going to be a wonderfully funny story to tell on your 50th anniversary party, while she poses with her mother in a tracksuit and her husband clutching a hanky. This could have ended in laughter instead of tears. However, this could be a time to reflect, talk with a trusted counselor, and figure out how you and your wife could do better moving forward. Bonus points if tour mother-in-law steps up to the plate and apologizes. /forgives forgets as well. For your information, my husband is sensitive to perfumes. It has become of laughter between us. I have scents for when I am with him, and others I enjoy when I am out with my besties. Reply 1. I was shocked that no one else was stepping in, slash stepping out to help. Like, not even the wedding party or the groom's family who saw groom stuck outside said, I'm all gonna go talk to mother-in-law and figure out how to fix this right now. Because even if mother-in-law didn't want to leave the reception, it's not such a big deal if someone else does briefly. Response 7. I completely empathize with you. I developed an allergy to many perfumes that give me a migraine-like headache or give me great sinus pain. I have to hold my breath if I walk near an Abercrombie and stench. You did all you could to compromise with mother-in-law. It was your special day, not just your wife's. You need to have a calm conversation with her about this allergy and set boundaries with your mother-in-law. I remember my late mother-in-law would wear a triggering perfume just as we were about to go out. It was frustrating as halal to deal with her manipulative behavior. Not the a-hole. Reply 1. I have to avoid Thanksgiving and Christmas scents. It's real fun and is encroaching earlier and earlier every year. Reply 2. This is the worst at grocery stores that sell all the smelly decorations, and it's usually near the checkout aisles. Response 8. This one is hard. Your marriage did not start out really well. I would have been offended if you asked my mother to leave. However, I also would have understood because of your reaction. Have you had a reaction like this before? She could have dabbed her clothing with some water as well, but it is not surprising that people would wear perfume. Reply 1. I've had a reaction like this twice before. Once years ago on an airplane, and then the second was when my wife bought a perfume from Victoria's Secret. Reply 2. So you are obviously sensitive. I would ask everyone at future family engagements that people refrain from using it around you. I'm sorry this all transpired on your wedding day. A spritz to one person could mail in 16 spritzes to another. Reply 3. LMAO. Asking people to refrain does literally nothing because the worst offenders who use the worst perfumes never refrain. I was a wedding coordinator and had many events that were meant to be scent-free, and they never were. It was always poison, opium, Chalamar, Oscar, and exclamation clouds all around the entire place. Response 9. NTA, I get scent-triggered migraines. Allergies to scent are no joke. But dude, you might want to examine why your new spouse doesn't exhibit any care or consideration for your health. Response 10. As someone who is also extremely sensitive to scent, I completely sympathize with you. You did your best to compromise, and I understand that your wife wanted her mother there, but it sounds like you were pushed out in favor of her mom. Sadly, people who have not had allergic reactions like this cannot possibly understand how miserable it is. Not the a-hole. Reply 1. This so much. I'm a scent-triggered asthmatic, and no one gets that it can be life-threatening. Hollywood has turned asthma into a funny signifier of the socially awkward instead of a medical condition. Just a nerd grabbing their inhaler and making funny sounds when they see an attractive person. Sorry, but I'm literally dying of oxygen deprivation and not making my mating call. Response 11. If your allergy is that serious, why didn't you tell all the attendees to not wear perfume or cologne? Reply 1. It's not something that has happened often. I've only had this reaction twice before, once on an airplane and when my wife got a perfume from Victoria's Secret. Reply 2. You are sensitive to smells. I am too. Welcome, it's not a fun club to be in. The kicker is not all smells will bother you, thus making people think you are lying. That's my favorite part, being called a liar. Not the a-hole you did all you could. It's not like you were trying to kick out mother-in-law because you don't like her. Talk to your wife once things calm down and explain that you can't help having a reaction, and it was your wedding too. What did she want you to do? Suffer? Usually, when you say it like this, people understand. Good luck. Reply 3. Yeah, it's super fun when one scent of Arm & Hammer laundry detergent is fine and another gives you an instant headache. Reply 4. Ugh, I feel that's so bad. I've been called dramatic because I have a really bad reaction to perfumes with a more artificial smell, like those floral smells. However, anything fruity I'm fine with, although with a slight headache. Everyone's always like, if you don't like the smell, just tell us, you don't have to be so dramatic. Like, yeah, I don't like the smell because it gives me such a bad reaction, Almeo. Reply 5. I feel like a liar when I'm not allergic to every cat. My throat closed once, and I've had a couple other not as bad reactions. But I'm not allergic at all to my cousin's cat, so I'm a liar and crazy for trying to avoid other cats, just in case. Response 12. Info. Is it the day after the wedding now? Did your wife come back? Is your wife going on a honeymoon with you? What did your family and friends have to say about this? Reply 1. It's 2 days after. She came home last night after doing some WFH at her parents'. We are supposed to go on a honeymoon next week, but she's still mad about asking her mom to both change and to leave, and that she felt embarrassed by my sitting outside and her family asking why. My friends and family aren't saying much. They asked me why I was sitting outside, did an O, and generally just tried to keep me company as much as they could out there. Reply 2. She's embarrassed that you were sitting outside when being inside was causing an allergic reaction? Seriously, I'm curious what she expected you to do? Just suffer through it and be miserable at your own wedding? Reply 3. Obviously, this was the bride and mother of the bride's wedding. The groom just needed to be there for the first part. Couldn't care less where he was after the ceremony, obviously. Crappy situation, 100%, but definitely not the a-hole. The bride and Mo B had no interest in finding a solution that would have permitted the groom to participate in his wedding and not have an allergic reaction. Reply 4. Reread that again. She's embarrassed that you had a reaction to her mother's perfume and sat outside. You embarrassed her. If my husband acted this way on my wedding day, he would have been hit with annulment papers. It's so obvious that the perception of her wedding was more important than your health. Has she always been this selfish? Good luck, because you didn't just marry her, you married her mom. You'll always be second best. Mom's presence was more important than your own on your wedding day. Reply 5. OP, this does not sound salvageable. She still thinks you're at fault, not her. That's messed up. Has the officiant filed the marriage license yet? If not, ask them to hold. It's easier not to file it than to have to divorce. It's time to have a come-to-Jesus-style talk with your new wife, letting her know how much her actions hurt you, and you're reconsidering the marriage altogether since she picked her mother's comfort over yours. You missed your entire wedding reception, and she doesn't care. She thinks you should have sucked it up to spare her embarrassment, instead of realizing by refusing to get her mother to change clothes and shower, you were unable to be in the same room. Response 13. Oh dear. No a-holes here. You are obviously not the a-hole for having an uncontrolled medical reaction. Mother-in-law was not informed that you have a potential sensitivity, and she did do her best to accommodate you on the fly, avoiding you, and because the perfume was on the dress, she couldn't wash it off. It wasn't unreasonable of her not to want to leave the wedding to find a dress at a thrift store. I think you're grossly overestimating the kinds of appropriate clothes that fit, aren't dated, and aren't drenched in a funky smell at Goodwill. Wife is not an a-hole for being horribly distressed about her mom leaving her wedding. What happens next is what's really important. Kicking your own mother-in-law out of your wedding, allergy or not, is a pretty big deal. If everyone is gracious, kind, and willing to work through this as adults, there may be a chance of salvaging the relationships. See if you can throw down an olive branch. Reply 1. You think he should be extending an olive branch? He didn't kick her out. She literally stayed, and he had to sit outside the rest of his own wedding. If anyone needs to extend an olive branch, it's his wife and mother-in-law. They were unwilling to compromise at any point. She could have gone home and come back. Instead of missing an hour or two of the wedding, they chose to let him suffer the entirety of it. I'd be royally pissed. I'm surprised he isn't. Reply 2. Why is her outfit more important than his physical well-being? If anyone apologizes, it should be wife and mother-in-law. Reply 3. I would agree on the judgment, except the wife went to her parents' house after the wedding instead of checking on OP or even just trying to talk. That's not a great sign. Reply 4. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. OP was literally having health issues that sound pretty serious. I'm curious to find out if the wife even called him. Reply 5. WTF? It's his wedding. He is the one getting married, not the mother-in-law. To think he shouldn't be prioritized above her is absurd. And the wife spending their wedding night with her parents, there's nothing to salvage here. He's better off not sending the marriage paperwork or annulling for lack of consummation if his bride says she wants her mom at the reception the whole time, but not her own dang husband. I feel so bad for this guy. Response 14. NTA. Your wife is, though. She knows you have reactions to cheap perfume, and she refused for you to pay for her mother to get a new outfit so that you could enjoy your wedding. Weddings are not just for the bride, and I get sick of people saying they are. You are just as much a part of the relationship as your now wife, and she should have been more understanding and asked her mom to change, especially on your wedding night. Your wife has no reason to be pissed at you, and it's actually annoying that she is when you're the one that missed your whole reception and couldn't even spend the day celebrating your love to each other. Your wife is on some bullcarp if she thinks she has the right to be the one upset about the whole thing. Reply 1. You're so right, especially about how weddings are not just about the bride. If OP shows any of this thread to his wife/Mael, I hope it's your comment, not the a-hole. Response 15. NTA. Similarish happened at a family wedding, but didn't involve bride/groom. My mother spritzed herself with the perfume called Opium. It is really strong. Made our cousin have a severe migraine, including vomiting. Was not pleasant. Sadly, the cousin had to leave as she became far too ill quite quickly. Response 16. NTA. The AH is your mother-in-law for refusing to accommodate you and your new wife willing to watch you suffer because she can't seem to cut the leading strings for a few minutes. No, neither your mother-in-law nor your wife knew that you would react to the perfume the way that you did. She should have absolutely left the venue after the ceremony and changed. Changing clothes for the reception is perfectly fine and normal, and I highly doubt anyone would have objected to her doing so. Yes, she would have on different clothes for the photos, but in the long run, that doesn't matter. She should have volunteered to do this the moment she saw you were physically suffering. But she didn't. She just basically shrugged and went, "Oh well, not my problem you're reacting to it." And your wife was being selfish. She could live without her mother for the 30 minutes to an hour it would take to change. Your symptoms were very obvious, and they are going to be in all your wedding photos unless the photographer is really good at touching up. I wouldn't even dream of allowing my husband to suffer like this, especially on our wedding day. Response 17. This is the craziest story. You were having a medical reaction to what your mother-in-law was wearing, a physical reaction. You had to get away from the perpetrator of your ailment. You gave multiple options for your mother-in-law, and she refused. Your new wife decided that her mother was more important at your wedding than you. Every other wife in history would have cared more about her partner and new husband over her mother's perfume and dress. Instead, she forced you outside, then complained that you were outside. Then she left you and went to her parents instead of being with you on your wedding night. Did she actually marry her mother that night instead of you? Are you so unimportant that she had to console her mother and not, I don't know, maybe her new husband? Now she has the gall to still be mad at you? She ruined your wedding and your wedding night. It was not her fault that her mother's perfume got you sick, but her reaction and decisions she made are her fault. All she had to say was, "Mom, it's not your fault that your perfume is giving my new husband a bad reaction, but this is our wedding and I need him here besides me. Please go quickly, get another outfit, and wash off the perfume. I will make sure to hold off the dances and anything else so you don't miss anything, but I need my husband to be with me at our wedding." Dude, do you really want to spend the rest of your life with a woman who decided that her mother was more important than you at your own wedding and then went home with her instead of you? Not the a-hole. Response 18. NTA. But I don't think anyone's the a-hole. I absolutely understand that you wanted her to change her dress. If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't have wanted the same thing and would have even wondered if someone could go out to get her a new dress, considering you were having an allergic reaction. I also understand your wife's reaction. Of course, she would want her mom there. I don't really understand why she would have to go spend the night with her parents. I'd be upset about that because it seems a little too far. You'd think she'd be a bit more understanding, that it wasn't like you just weren't liking the smell and being rude for no reason. You were having an actual reaction. Edit, I understand her reaction of wanting her mom there only. Response 19. It's not just cheap perfume. I had to stop using my designer perfume when I started dating my husband. He gets that reaction to some, but not all perfumes. Not the a-hole. I can't believe your wife and your mother-in-law wouldn't protect you and just expected you to suffer. Response 20 info. Do you have allergies? If yes, does your wife and everyone around you know about them? Other than that, I think you were not the a-hole. They could clearly see that this was affecting you too much. It was yours and her daughter's wedding, not hers. She should have left the minute she saw that you were getting so uncomfortable and sick by it. Why did they want to happen to do that? You getting an anaphylactic shock? They didn't respect you at all. I get that she wanted her mother with her, but how would she feel if you ended up in the hospital or sick at home? And why on earth did she put so much perfume? Reply 1. I haven't been to a doctor for it. My wife, however, does know about it. She got a perfume from Victoria's Secret before, and I had the same reaction to that, but her other perfumes I don't have a reaction to. Reply 2. Then she should have told her mom to go change the minute she saw you have that reaction. Also, if I knew my fiancé/wife has an allergy, I would have already informed my family and anyone who would be close to us almost all night. Reply 3. This makes perfect sense. There are a number of perfumes I can't wear myself, but that are fine when others wear them. But I have just a few that bother me even on other people. The scents are similar, so I think it's some specific ingredient that affects me. What I find annoying in your case is that your mother-in-law felt the need to drench herself in any perfume when she knew she would be in close contact with multiple people. Considering how many people are perfume sensitive, that's incredibly inconsiderate. If I can smell someone's perfume when they're not right near me, they're wearing too much.